Welcome to The Craft. I'm your host, May Globus. This podcast is a collection of intimate conversations on artistry, mastery, and life with talented, passionately curious creatives and entrepreneurs. Most are dear friends, some are those I've admired from afar. I hope you enjoy these conversations, this exploration of the humanity that connects all of us, as much as I do having them. Thank you for being here and for listening. There's a deep kindness that emanates from Craig Pearce that you feel the moment you meet him. The founder of beloved custom furniture company Union Wood Co. also recently launched a new product brand, Goodland, which creates objects for a slow, considered life. His family moved from Toronto to Vancouver when he was 5 years old. His father was in banking and was relocated. As a kid, Craig grew up in West Vancouver, skateboarding and snowboarding, and he was creative even back then, a trait he inherited from his mom. Craig began his road to becoming a firefighter after a pivotal moment on a trip to New Zealand in his early 20s, something he still does full-time. Founding Union Wood Co. in 2009 came by organically after a stint living in Big White, Kelowna, as a volunteer firefighter while doing carpentry on the side. In this conversation, we discuss how he expressed his creativity through drawing as a kid, his journey to becoming a firefighter for the past 16-plus years, and his love for a second family at the fire hall, why he loves building things with his hands, and how he's entirely self-taught, the ins and outs of scaling his businesses, the immersive design and production process of his team at Union Wood Co., how the slowdown of the pandemic sparked the idea for Goodland and the product launching soon, a wood-fired hot tub, what he loves about his wife Kendra, why moving half as fast means you notice twice as much, and more. Please enjoy this conversation with a jovial, passionate, and innately creative Craig Pearce. Craig Pearce, welcome to The Craft.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I'm super delighted you're here. You are on my original list of people to have on the show. So finally,
awesome.
Second season.
Yeah,
here
I'm
you
excited
are.
about it. It feels a little bit out of my comfort zone and stuff, but it's cool. It feels really real. And it's exciting.
Yes.
To be a part of your thing too.
Yeah. And you've got the headphones on and everything.
I'm in the zone, fully in the zone here.
When you and I caught up a couple of months ago, we were talking about when we first met, and I was doing in my head a little bit of the timeline. It was almost a decade ago.
Oh man, yeah. That feels like feels like many, many lives ago, you know?
It really does. Yeah. I was at Love Social,
yes.
And we had just moved into an office at the Petrina building in Gastown.
In the Dominion building or the
No, it was the one
Petrina,
on Cordova.
like the big tall one, right?
No, it's I think it was like only 4-story.
Oh, okay, yeah,
it's
right
across,
on the corner, yeah.
Yeah, it's across the street from
like Old Faithful.
Old Faithful. I was gonna say Field and Social for a second, but yeah, Old Faithful.
Yeah.
And you made all of our work desks.
Yeah, we made some desks there for you. Yeah, that was a fun one for sure.
Yeah, and it was we loved those desks, and it went quite well with the heritage building.
Yeah, it went with we used some like reclaimed wood for that. It really suit the kind of the tone and what you guys were going for, I think.
Yeah.
That was fun.
We made good use of them. And then I think, just as Vancouver goes, we know some of the same people.
Totally, yeah.
Claire
lots
Linton,
of mutual friends.
Et cetera. Totally.
Kara Donaldson, that was one I think, connection.
Yes, right. Way back in the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. Yeah, I'm definitely, I'm feeling we just had our Canadian Thanksgiving weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And coming back in the swing from that, it was really nice to be with friends and family, and we were so lucky we had nice weather over the weekend. And
and you're on Bowen full time. So
I'm on Bowen. Yeah. And we were just in the forest there. We have a dog that we share actually with Kara, and we had him for the weekend. So it was all about just like walking the dog and just like doing that fun kind of family stuff, really low key.
Mm-hmm.
We got into the wine a little bit last night, but
red or white? Red?
A little bit of both, actually. Shamefully, that's why I woke up with a little bit of a headache,
and 2 glasses of water right now.
Yeah, exactly.
At the desk. Yeah. Let's go back to your childhood. You grew up on the North Shore.
Yeah, I was actually born in Ottawa, and then we kind of, like, my dad worked for the bank, so we moved around a lot because I guess that's what they did back in the day. yeah, they moved him out from Toronto to Vancouver. And I think I was like about 5. So I barely have
Okay.
like any memories of Toronto whatsoever.
Yeah.
From that, my brother lives there now, so I have some new memories of Toronto, but like I don't really remember. I remember like the house and the yard and neighbors and stuff like that, but not
Mm-hmm.
much about. Obviously, I didn't know about any scenes or anything
Yeah,
like
of course. A little too young for the
that.
scene.
Yeah,
Where in Toronto were you living?
like North York, I think.
Okay,
I
yeah,
mean
yeah,
that we might have to fact check that with my parents, but I think that we were North York somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what that neighbor like. I don't know anything about the neighborhood now
Yes,
or
yeah.
anything, but I think we did look up the house when they first had Google Street View. Like my
Mm-hmm.
sister and I checked the house out, and it still looks the same.
Yeah, you recognized it
Yeah, it
in the
had those
images?
like those like glass block, like they would make a window out of those like
Yeah.
8 by 8
Yes,
like
right.
glass
Oh my
blocks. We
gosh.
had like a few of those. And I remember thinking that was like I remember when my parents renovated and actually like put that in,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Yeah, look how cool this is."
Oh, I totally know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
I think
Yeah.
they're actually kind of coming back in style. I don't know. So many different styles now, everything's
Mm-hmm.
in style.
Choose your own adventure.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so North Vancouver,
West Van,
West Van.
actually.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 So I grew up in West Van and I moved around to like a couple different schools there. And I think I came in like grade 2. So, it was
Mm-hmm.
like, I wasn't coming in like super late or anything like that. But yeah, they were, I just found groups of friends like pretty quickly. It was pretty easy to transition that way.
Oh, that's good.
I think the biggest difference was when we were in Toronto, I was doing like French immersion. And
Mm.
then when we came out to Vancouver, I wasn't in French immersion. So like right away, my like reading level and stuff was like kind of less than everybody else's because they had just only focused on English, so they were like quite advanced at doing English reading
Mm-hmm.
and probably writing. And then because we had been doing both in Toronto, I was like a little bit behind in that basically.
Yeah, yeah. That would be a hard transition going from majority of
Yeah,
communicating,
I mean, it's hard.
learning in
It's hard to
French.
like. I don't want to complain because there's certainly a lot of people that moved, in a lot more dramatic circumstances than me,
Mm.
or moved a lot more often, or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
picking up and moving, your whole life, when you're that age, it was a big deal for me at the time. And I remember when we first came out, like, I think my parents came out to maybe like check a house out or something like that, and my dad was so sweet. He obviously knew it was like going to be so dramatic for us because even like it's the things like the trees look different. It just felt like we hadn't really
Mm.
traveled much probably by the time I was 5. We'd done camping or whatever, but it was just a totally like not even the landscape or anything that I was used to seeing. So it was just so weird, right?
Yeah.
Like
The foliage
obviously,
is different on the East
yeah,
Coast.
it's just like
Yeah.
it's
It's
just a
still
whole different.
beautiful. It's different though.
And my dad, I remember he rented like, and this is such a like 80s, 90s thing, is like he rented a limo to pick us up at the airport and take us like to see the new house or
Oh my
whatever. It was so
gosh.
funny. And it was just felt like the biggest, grandest thing. It was
Mm-hmm.
so cool.
Yeah. And you've been mentioning your dad. What's your dad like?
He's awesome. Yeah. My dad's a solid guy. He's I'd say he's like a little bit introverted. Like he doesn't have a huge like friend circle or anything like that. Like him and my mom are really tight partners and kind of always have been, and they've been just kind of a team at doing everything. Um, and yeah, he's always a good guy. I was there to kind of help out and give me advice
Mm.
or listen or whatever. Yeah, he's
Mm-hmm.
always been there for me. They've always been really really supportive of all the kind of crazy slash stupid things I've been doing. So
And your mom?
yeah, my mom, she's a teacher. She was like a kindergarten teacher, and so she is just like almost like a little cheerleader, like go 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 with everything. And
Mm.
this lady's got so much energy. She could go like she could take over the Energizer Bunny. I'm sure she's just nonstop. She's got like wild creativity too. Like I don't know if that's from being an educator, but just the like she'll come over with she came over for Thanksgiving with my daughters and just did these like wild crafts. Like they made these turkey hats. And I'm like, where do you even, because she doesn't use Pinterest like other people for ideas. You know what I mean? She just like comes up with these crazy ideas, these crafts and stuff like that. So, and she's got, she's always good ways of like, she knows how to work kids for sure. So,
yeah. Well, I remember you telling me in our catch up like a couple of months ago that you were actually quite a creative kid as well.
Yeah, I think I was like I was really behind at that reading and stuff, and I definitely I felt a creative. I could tell I had like a creative gene, but I didn't know how or what really to do with it. So I was always kind of drawing and creating kind of little not arts and crafts really, but just creating little things,
Yeah.
But it's hard to do that when you're a kid. Like, how do you express that? You don't really know, other than like maybe building a fort or doing some drawing or something like that. You don't have all these different ways of expressing creativity like an adult can.
Yeah. What kind of things were you drawing? Were you drawn to drawing certain things like
like
cartoons or like
the one thing that like really sticks
superheroes?
out to me, and this is actually a little bit embarrassing, is like I drew. I think my sister found this like a few years ago. It's like when you have Lego, like the bottom, there'd be like a big flat square, and you would like build things on top of that.
Right. Yeah.
And like my sister flipped over it on the back, and it had all these like skulls and snakes and stuff that were almost like tattoo flash.
Oh no way.
Just these like kind of ready-made like tattoo drawings. And I mean, I guess I was a little bit older than a kid because some of them maybe said like 420 on them or something. But
Might have, or they did.
Some of them had like, it'd be like a skull with a mohawk smoking a cigarette kind of thing. So I probably wasn't like a child when I drew that. That was be more like preteen or something.
Yeah.
Which was really funny because now I'm like really into tattoos. So
Yes.
And I didn't know where that came from. Nobody in my family. I don't know where I really like came up with that stuff, but
Yeah.
obviously I'd seen it somewhere and just copied it. And so I was drawing some of that stuff and just lots of playing around, goofing around, really.
Were you energetic? Were you shy?
I think I would be like lazy is what I remember being like. I wanted to watch like a lot of TV. I wasn't shy. I was definitely a social kind of butterfly. I always just wanted to be with friends and have friends around, basically. And I never really got into sports. But I got really into like skateboarding and snowboarding is really where I kind of did that a ton with my friends, and then we just spent all day every day doing that, basically.
Yeah.
So that was a fun way to like hang out with the crew and go check out places. And we'd go to the like Griffin Bowl in North Van, and there'd be like spray paint there. I tried some spray painting. I was really bad at that.
Graffiti artists, you're not.
I'm not. I really can't, that kind of art does not come easily for me whatsoever.
So fun fact, which totally took me by surprise when we caught up, is in addition to founding Union Wood Co. in 2009, which we'll definitely get into, you're also a firefighter, and you've always really loved it and always really wanted to do it.
Yeah. That is a fun fact. And like a lot of people don't know that, and it's like not something that I keep secret, but I just kind of like forget about it almost, in a sense of it's not my like sole identity, it's really fun and I'm really passionate about it. And I just have all these other interests as well. But so I've been doing that for about 16 years, or maybe I'm coming up on my 17th year or something like that in January. So I'm getting really close to it. And it's always kind of changing. Like my role there always changes, is always changing a little bit. Right now I drive the fire truck. That's kind of my main duty. And then obviously when we get there we do other things as well. But being responsible for the fire truck is a big big responsibility.
It's a big machine.
And I kind of got into that. Like I actually remember when I really was interested in that was I knew that I always wanted to like do things with my hands, basically. Like I knew I wanted, my dad's work being in a bank, he was like, I don't even know, commercial lending or something like that. Sorry, Dad, I don't exactly remember what you do, but, or did, but, you know, I just kind of knew, I'm like, I just don't want to get into that. I didn't have any interest in any kind of like traditional suit wearing business office going kind of stuff. And I was like, I knew I really wanted to do something with my hands. And I think that probably boils back down to right when I like started school, I was at a lower level than everybody else. And I knew that I wanted to be creative. And I was like, I got to do something with my hands. And one of my like best friends, Pat Hennessy, and I were in New Zealand, which is where we went after high school. We went just basically on a snowboarding trip in New Zealand. And we were in this little town called, I think it's Queenstown. I think Queensland's in Australia. So Queenstown in New Zealand. This was like 20 years ago. So sorry, I forget. But, and basically we were like, basically we were partying, snowboarding, staying in hostels and all that stuff. And then in the morning we were out for breakfast one day, and basically throughout this whole town, this like air raid siren, like it sounded like, like what I would know from the movies of like, they're going to drop like a bomb on the city kind of thing. Like they just had this really loud siren. And it's almost like if you've ever been to Fino and you've heard the tsunami warning.
One. Yeah.
And it was like that going off in the city. And I'm like, what the hell? We were just in this kind of semi-foreign place. It's not like the most exotic, but it's pretty similar to BC. But I was like, what the hell is that? And so we started asking, whoever our server was or whatever. And they said, oh, that's for the fire department. It's like a volunteer system so that people will be at home. And then they do that air raid siren. That means that they're supposed to report to the fire hall and get on the truck and go to the call kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And that just like, I was like, holy, that sounds really cool. I was like, when I get back from this trip, I want to look into being a firefighter. That sounds like, it was like that instant. I was like, maybe that would be a good job for me. I feel like you work with your friends and you do kind of cool stuff and it's different every day. Like maybe that would be a fun job. And that's really kind of like what started the path for me to being a firefighter. And then when I got home, I just like immediately set to work on that, like finding out more about it. And I didn't have any family or friends like really who knew anything about it,
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of those jobs that like you don't really know what they're doing unless you actually know someone that does it, It's always a like slight mystery for people. They don't actually understand what's going on all day, every day.
And the training's quite rigorous, right?
Yeah, the training is really competitive to get in. And so I got really lucky to get in. Like I got in super young, like maybe about 22, which was like really, really fortunate. And yeah, basically it's kind of like you have to do a bit of schooling, but really what they want is life experience. And so that's why to get in at 22 is really fortunate. I mean, I'm not like lots of other people are getting in young like that too, but it's kind of on the younger side of average. And what they want is like, this life experience, which is kind of hard to get by the time you're 22 or 23 kind of thing. So I almost was like, okay, I never went to university. So or really any post-secondary. So I kind of looked at it like, all right, my friends have gone and done 4 years of post-secondary or are doing that in the process of that. And I'm going to do 4 years of just trying to tick every single box that they have on their entrance, like, their entrance requirements. And if I can just tick every box, get that life experience, driving a truck, all this kind of things, first aid stuff, then they can't say no, And I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So if it takes 4 years, okay, I'll give it like 4 or 5 years. Then if I can't do it then maybe I'll reassess or something like that. But I'll try to work as hard as possible in those 4 years to just, make it so they can't say no to me, basically. So yeah, and then once you do it, like, anybody can do all those things essentially, and then it's pretty competitive to get in. You write some tests, and you have to like go spend a weekend at the fire hall, like kind of they put you through like drills and kind of like some of them are skills and some of them are like, how do you work as a team? And
Right.
some of those like almost like a trust fall, like some,
Yeah.
not literally, but kind of
But in those,
activities like
yeah.
that essentially. So.
I mean, in major situations and major calls.
Yeah, and
you
they're
need
just
that,
trying to
right?
get to know people. They put you like they intentionally will put you in an awkward position. Like, is he gonna say something stupid, or not even that, or is he gonna
Can he
collapse
handle
under the
this?
pressure? You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? Like, so that's kind of how I ended up getting through that, and then and I've so 15, 16 years of doing that, and I love it. It's really fun. It's obviously, it's a passion of mine, and I love the people that I work with. It's super fun. We just have a great time there. You know?
I was going to ask, like, what's life like at the fire hall? I imagine it's almost like a second family.
Yeah, it's like a second family. Yeah, it is. I mean, there's about 100 of us or so that all work at different, like, because obviously, I'm not there this minute, but there's a crew working there, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So we work on different shifts, and the shift that I'm on is like, kind of our like close family, and then the other people we see, and it's kind of funny, like there will be people that I'll bump into someone I maybe haven't seen in a couple of years because they've been at another station or something like that. And it's like catching up with like an old friend or family that you haven't seen for a while, and oh, how are the kids? And
Yeah, because you're sleeping there too, right?
Yeah. It's like there's a lot of like, it's a lot of getting along together, really, right? So you have to, you do. You're like, your people. There's stuff that you can like bug each other with that you just don't have to deal with at a normal job, like, oh, this person snores, or like it's a sleeping quarters thing. Like sometimes we all sleep in a big room. Or like we all cook together, right? That's all part of the camaraderie thing. And because our shifts are long, we like have to cook there. There's no, we can't really like go out, like you can't take a break, right? So it's not like you can, oh, I'll be back, I'm gonna go get a coffee or something like that. So like every activity is together, and there's no hiding. You can't like be, if you come to work and you've been fighting with your partner or had a really stressed out day at your side job or whatever, I mean, they can read that stuff on you, because they've known you for, the people that I've worked there, like, I've known them for 16 years, right?
Right.
So they know me inside and out, in good, with the good and the bad, I'm sure.
Totally. I think it's so fascinating that there's this other side to your life and what you do.
Yeah, I felt like, I mean, it's always been a fun thing. And I think last year with COVID was like, I felt even like extra fortunate for that job, because I'm not the kind of person, I can't just work from home by myself, like with my family there and stuff. Like I don't like thrive off that. I mean, I definitely can get a lot done in a day or two, but I was so like, when everybody was in lockdown, like we were still going to work, you know?
You're essential.
And there was still that kind of like camaraderie, brother and sisterhood kind of thing.
So you had that connection where it's like,
like you were, people were like, I haven't seen anyone in months. And I was like, I'm sick of these people. I'd just seen them for 4 days straight,
Right. And Union Woodco, to jump into that came about super organically. You were living in Big White, and you were working at a fire station there, right? And then you were doing carpentry on the side.
Yeah, exactly. It was, I was living in Big White, and they have like a volunteer program up there. So you live in the fire station, and you basically get experience, and they don't pay you, but they put you up there for the year, and you live in the, you're basically like a real firefighter, but you go to calls, check the truck, all this training stuff, and it was really cool. But there wasn't that much action up there, so they encourage you to go get a job basically while you're there, a job that you can still respond to calls from. And I ended up working, I wanted to get into carpentry, building houses, and I got a job with one of the guys there. There was only like maybe a dozen kind of construction companies, and he really, like, his name was Chris, and he was just one of these guys. Like, thinking back, he was probably like maybe 30, I don't know. He was pretty young too. And he would just take on these whatever construction projects and just like, oh yeah, we can do that. Yeah, no problem. We can get that done for sure. And I don't actually know what training he has, if any, but he had a little kind of garage space, which was the only company that had something like that. And so, this was back in like, I'm trying to remember when this was, like maybe 2006 or something like that. You couldn't order furniture online. Like there was no online marketplace for furniture. So if people that had these beautiful cabins wanted bunk beds or bar stools or dining tables, like Chris and I would go out and cut the trees down. Like you're allowed to harvest the trees outside of Kelowna and Big White there. So we would like harvest the trees and like literally peel the bark off and make furniture out of that. As part of his kind of construction offering. And we would make like handrails or stairs, or, we would take a big log and like cut the triangle stairs out of it and then like, lay it between someone's first floor and second floor. And then voila, they have a staircase kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was really like, it was just something I never thought I would be interested in, but it like lit a spark in me right away because it was really this like kind of hands-on, kind of trade work, but the like reward cycle was like so much quicker because you could have a piece of furniture finished. Like, if someone needs a coffee table, it could be like a solid morning and then the thing's basically done. Or maybe it's a bigger piece. Maybe it takes 5 days or maybe 2 weeks or something like that. But when you're building a house, you just like come and, you frame the first floor, the second floor, the roof, and then you're gone. And then the next guys come in and do the insulation and the drywall, and you really never see your finished product. It's just all like hidden under there, and you're just following plans. So when we were doing the furniture with Chris, it was a total freestyle. Like there was not even, we wouldn't even make a drawing of what to make. He'd be like, make like a little coffee table. So you just picture something in your head and try to figure out backwards how to make it and ask him some advice. And
you were entirely self-taught in
that, there was
sense.
no like, Chris gave me some pointers, but basically I think what I learned from him was like, this is what not to do is mostly what he would say on how to take it. Well, this didn't work for me last time. And I can't imagine that any of that stuff is still standing. Well, hopefully nobody's using any like bar stools or bunk beds or anything that we made, because I can't imagine they're still like safe, because none of us knew what we were doing. But that's what was so fun too, right? It was just the creativity to do, whatever. And in hindsight, now that I do know more about like proper furniture making, I was just like, oh man, that's like we did all the the no-nos. But
I'm curious.
But that's how you learn, right?
Yeah, and I'm curious to know, when you're making furniture, does it feel meditative to you? Do you get in this flow state when you're making furniture?
Well, truthfully, I don't make a ton of furniture these days anymore. So I'm kind of, working with my team a bit. But
when you did,
what I think about when making furniture is like, a lot of people think that it's really this like peaceful, meditative, artistic thing, but it's quite like, and it really gets romanced. And I think that like the internet does not help that, but it's a lot of work. Like it's actually hours and hours of building, sanding, planning and planing. Those are two different things. Like all the materials. So, I think it's more, I wouldn't say that it feels meditative, to be honest. I would say that it's just immersive. So you're like all in on it, and then there are some parts where it's like sanding, where you might be doing that's kind of monotonous for like a couple hours, and then you can kind of like zone out, and your head can be thinking about the next project or whatever. But it's just really fun to just take something, a pile of like lumber and some crude tools, and a few steps later you have this finished thing that's actually a usable piece of furniture.
Right.
I think that's what's so, like, I tried painting and drawing and watercolor, and I just, in the end, I just felt like I didn't have this thing that was substantial enough, like for me, for the time that I'd put in. And I was like, my paintings are lame. So, but the furniture was
pretty good.
You get something you can use, right? Something you can like gift to people, or monetize. This is before I knew anything about, art, but
and it's useful. Like
it's useful. Yeah, you put your drink on it,
it's an
and
anchor
everybody
piece in
needs
your
it,
home.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's essential for modern day
The centerpiece of
living.
everyday life is
Yeah.
what we say at Union Woodco,
Yeah.
And I think it does stem from a family thing for me. Like my parents were not strict, but strict in a sense of like we all ate dinner around the table. Like
Yes.
I don't even remember having the TV on or anything. It just, we would sit around the table and kind of in a traditional family style and talk about our day. And, there was we didn't really have secrets there. And my sister would talk about how she was stressed with homework or, whatever, right? And my parents would ask me how this is going or that's going. And they would share their lives as well. And it was like everybody had hectic days, especially when my mom and dad were working. And then there's 3 kids, and everybody would sit there and talk about their day. And then on the weekends, we would have friends or family over. And
so much life can happen around
everything happens
table,
around
right?
the table. We're sitting around a table right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's such a magical thing. And like, I feel lucky that my parents kind of forced that onto us, but lots of people overlook it, everything happens at a table.
Yeah. No, it's
good things and bad things too, right?
Something very philosophical to that. Yeah. I'm curious because I'm always so fascinated and I love learning about the workings of an industry that I'm not in.
Mm-hmm.
Can you walk me through how a project starts at the shop and the process of seeing it through, at least with your studio?
Yeah. So I think maybe the most, kind of relevant thing is to talk about how a new thing comes to life. So so right now with me, I am the owner and creative director, and then I have a design director as well. So we'll kind of work together on on a new product. Sorry, I should probably start this again. I think I'm rambling a bit. Okay, ask me the question again. How about that?
Yeah, it was just, how a project starts at the shop and just the process of seeing it through, like all the different touch points, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we start a project at the shop, it starts from like an idea. So whether it's like our own idea that we've come up with in-house, or maybe it's someone else's idea, because we do like custom services as well, right? So not only do we build our own like product collection, we'll bring other people's ideas to life, and really can start like a sketch on a napkin could be where the idea starts, right? And you kind of have this, here's what we like, here's our objective at the end is to have this functionality and like this kind of size, so maybe it's a storage cabinet and they want it, with drawers on the bottom and open storage above, right? And it can start off that basic, just a little pencil sketch. And then we turn it into like a working drawing. So I'll basically interpret the idea, whether it's, again, our own idea that we've talked about as kind of a design group with myself and some other staff. Here's our concept. And then one of us will take that into the drawing phase and try to basically interpret what we all decided. And maybe, 3 versions of it kind of thing. So here's this scale, or, we could do it this way. And then we pick a direction and kind of go further down that rabbit hole. So we just refine the drawings. So a lot of it is in this pre-planning phase. There's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes before you even get into action. And then you basically, once you lock that down, and what's nice about that part is you can be really creative, but I think this framework works good for me, is that being creative, but also having limitations. Like, the wood only comes in certain thicknesses or certain tones, or, well, our machinery is limited, so we can only do it like this. So it kind of sets a bit of like a skeleton about how to, how
you've
to
got some
work through.
parameters.
You have some parameters to work around, right? So, and I think that's what's fun. It's almost like a bit of a puzzle. And then once you figure that out, then you can execute it. So that's kind of procuring the lumber, which comes from like specialty lumber yards in the city. And then you break it out. So you kind of have a list of all these different pieces you need to make So you make each separate piece, and then you assemble all those pieces to have it come to a finished piece, kind of thing.
It's so methodical, actually.
It's pretty
like
methodical, yeah.
Yeah.
There's like a certain, it's like kind of like these like steps that you can't skip. So everything needs to be sanded and then finished. Those are the final steps. But yeah, you work through this kind of like a flow chart almost, right?
Yeah. It kind of reminds me, like, I imagine that you've got a team of craftspeople,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of similar to your fire hall, where you have like a team of people that are doing certain functions, like you're the driver.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is what you do.
Yeah.
And at Union Woodco, there's the same. There's probably like a leather worker and like a welder. And,
yeah, exactly.
And probably other craftspeople that I don't know.
Yeah,
but
there's like different
imagine...
like levels of woodworkers, so they would have different specialties too. Some of them might be better at maybe solid wood joinery, or the other ones are better working with sheet material, which is we use a combination of both kind of thing. So and you have to plan, like, of course, the project around like those skill sets too, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. It's like it's like a team, and everybody is their little cog in the wheel kind of thing, and at the end you get a good product, right? And I think that's how you make a good product, is by using a team. I think when I was just making furniture by myself, because I was self-taught, I was like, oh, this is not. I mean, it was fine, but it wasn't like beautiful, enduring, skilled craftsmanship like we're making now.
Right. Because you have the right people in the right place.
Yeah, exactly.
Now.
Yeah, we've got an awesome team that does that stuff and is proud of their. We all put in work to make the company happen, and everybody's proud of their role. So, if we're all proud of our own little part, then the finished product is something we can all be proud of.
It's so nice to listen to this, because I think as we, live our day-to-day lives, and, you think of your table at home or whatever, you kind of forget all of the people along the way who worked on that for you to enjoy it and have it in your home.
Yeah.
And the level of skill, especially when something comes from a studio like yours, just how much care.
I think, and that's what resonates with our like customers too, right? Is they want, and what really will take people from like being interested to purchasing is like when they visit that shop.
Yeah, I was gonna say, develop a relationship with everyone.
Like to come and check out the shop is such a like unique place. You just don't see it, and just we're lucky in the space that we have. It's kind of like almost feels like you're entering this secret little courtyard, and then boom, all of a sudden there's like there's a big garage door, and you open up and there's like there's 8 to 10 like craftspeople in there working on stuff. Jeremy's got he's welding, he's got or sparks flying because he's grinding something, and then somebody else is on the table saw, and you can just I'm so used to like coming home from work and I'm like covered in sawdust or whatever, right? Anything you touch there is obviously covered in wood dust, and the smell is like so shocking to people because they're not used to it.
Yeah.
They come into that space and you're just fully immersed in furniture making, basically. And that's a really cool thing. The customers, we have a lot of interior design customers that come by to talk about a project or whatever, and these people are like, they work normally in an office or they're visiting clients, so they're like dressed well and professionally, and then they come into our shop for like a second, and I'm like, that black jacket's gonna get covered in sawdust. Like,
you need to give them suits, like
ponchos.
Like
totally, should have
or their own aprons or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I always warn them, but they go, "Oh no, it's all good. Yeah, it's part of it, right?"
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm sure that it's just part of like the journey of seeing their piece being made.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is really cool. Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit. My friend Jude Wang, he owns Cultivate Tea on Main Street.
Oh yeah.
And he has a really close relationship with all the tea farmers. Like he's often at the farm. He's developed years of relationships. He's always visiting. And, and that just makes, I'm sure for him, like the product that he gets extra special.
Yeah, I'm sure it makes it easy for him to sell too, because he's like passionate about it, like from the beginning all the way to the end, right?
All the origins. Yeah.
So cool.
So cool. And your creativity has obviously evolved at the shop too, from, in the very early days being a maker to now running obviously the strategy and the sustainability of the business. How has that shift been for you? Like what have you learned about yourself in that time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've learned a lot. Like, I mean, I think I've grown a lot as a person and learned a lot about myself. Um, when I started, I really wanted to be that hands-on creative guy, and I really did fulfill that a lot, and it was super fun. And at one point, I just kind of realized that, I can't run a business and literally make everything, and I also need, like, my skills were moderate, you know what I mean? And I still get in there every once in a while, to kind of, or I build something at home, to like use my skills a little bit, because I absolutely thrive off that. But I think as long as I have a creative outlet, I'm happy with that. And so my creative outlet is, it can be like, what does this piece of furniture look like? Or it can be, how do I run this business? Or, oh, wow, look at all these competitors we have now. What angle can we take that's different than them to attract more customers or whatever? So, I'm still like flowing with my creative juice that makes me happy and fulfilled at the end of the day. But it's just different things that I'm thinking about, whether it's like content for the social media, or what products are going to be, what are they going to look like next spring? We're doing a really deep dive into that now, to think about what are our products going to look like the next year, next 2 years, next 5 years, kind of thing. So my role now is, that business strategy stuff, kind of the overall creative director, and I work with a creative team, obviously. And also, how can I be a good employer for these employees too, right? Like, I think that's a important thing that I occasionally remember, is that, okay, if in 30 years or whatever, when I decide to quit Union Woodco or sell it or whatever happens to it, I'll look back at my time and think, oh, I had a lot of great customers. That's awesome. Oh, we made a lot of beautiful furniture. That's awesome. But the third kind of thing that maybe gets overlooked is like, can I have been a good employer? You know what I mean? Can I have like fulfilled these persons, like, I don't know if anybody's going to stay with me for 30 years, but while they're with me, can I give them a fulfilling job that makes them happy, and fills up their bucket too, right? Like, I get my bucket filled up there because I get to be creative and I get to make fun decisions and, have pressure, which I like. But are these people getting their buckets filled too, right? And I think almost if you could look back after having a company, if that could be your primary focus of like having, yeah, great, we made a lot of furniture, that's awesome, and we made lots of clients happy and we're part of a lot of cool spaces and events and stuff. But were you a good employer? Did you have happy staff and good staff, and
because of that, could they live fulfilled lives?
Yeah, and could they go on and do their own thing? Were they inspired to go do their own thing, or whatever it is? And so that's something that I think it's important to think about, right? And
of course.
And actually, if it's all said and done and you could look back, what would you rather be? Made a lot of money, or have made an impact in people's lives and had happy employees that went on to have like happy lives themselves? And I think that one is more important,
Yeah. Do you hear that, all business owners and employers? That's that's really,
I try.
really beautiful.
It's not easy. Yeah. Like, it's actually, it's hard. It is hard, but
you think about it, and that's important.
Yeah, it's a good something you got to wake up and think about.
Yeah, no, I think that's super wonderful. And you used to buy and sell antiques at the Railtown shop. So you and your wife, Kendra, she's an interior designer for Fluvog, right? John
She works at Fluvog, yeah.
You both love antiques, and you guys used to go to Texas and find amazing items.
Yeah, I think at the start of my business, we had that Railtown space. I actually had another shop before that. But when I lived in when I had that Railtown space, was really a cool spot there. That spot's obviously, has totally changed in the last decade. But we were actually the first people, when I got that little shop there, I was the first person on the street to have an open and close sign. So there was no JJ Bean. There was no, I don't even know who's down there anymore, Benson or whatever. Like, it's all, I haven't even been down there. But there was nobody that had kind of a little storefront. So we just had this little kind of like 600 square foot storefront, and I would fill it up with furniture. And we were, as I say we, it'd be Kendra would help me out, basically part of a passion project, and Kara too, actually. And it was really kind of like, okay, well, you can't have a table. I mean, if you want to have a beautiful desk that you made there, that's great. But you got to have a light for it. And, we got to make this space look like an actual showroom. And so instead of sourcing new products, I've always been really passionate about antiques. And so we would basically go antique hunting, and that turned into kind of a side of the business, basically. So we were doing a lot of kind of hunting, finding, picking, or whatever you want to call it. And we would bring the products back, clean them up, fix them up, put them in the store, and sell them too. And that was actually a good revenue generator for a while too. People had a lot of interest in that. And I'm really passionate about that. I could have gone down that road like happily, I ended up sticking with the furniture more, and it's just it ended up being not super sustainable as a business. We were getting a lot of the stuff in the States.
Yeah.
And it was really just like a hobby passion that I, was able to generate a little bit of income from, and made it paid for the trip kind of thing. And we got some cool stuff out of it. And yeah, I've always been just kind of like a nostalgic person. Like I'm always thinking about, the simpler times of the past. And it's always kind of been something that's interested me, is those concepts. And I think that's how I got interested in antiquing, really. It was just like the story of all the old things. Where did it come from? Or, like this lighting manufacturer, they only made like 30 of these, or whatever.
Or even like the hidden stories of like why a person bought that, like the person before you
totally.
and the person before
and like
them.
How did they keep it in such amazing condition, or if it's really worn. Like I was into a lot of like really industrial stuff, and it would have this like, the patina is what it's called, but it'd be like worn, where people would use this light, over and over kind of thing. And just the thought that, a company made that to literally serve one purpose, to light up a work surface or something like that.
Yes.
And then the fact that, we would be using that as like a decorative piece later was just, blew my mind, just how cool that was, and how something was made for a utilitarian purpose, and then it had a beauty to me kind of thing.
I love antique and vintage things too. I've got some things in my home. There's actually a great shop that's closer to like Chilliwack and Hope, and there's a big nursery out there. And like the
it's like Mama and Papa's, is it that place, or
maybe? I don't know.
It's got a big barn and stuff.
No, this one is different. I don't think it's a big barn, but I'll try to find the name for you. But
there's not a lot here.
No, but this person curated a bunch of really awesome things, and I was in there and I spotted this suitcase from probably, I don't know, like the early 1900s.
Yeah.
And the reason I have like this, I have this affinity for Japan and Japanese made things, and this old suitcase had all of these vintage travel stickers from Japan.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
They were all super faded. The inside was this printed silk with floral pattern. And it even has, how modern day suitcases have like the clasps inside, right? Just to keep everything in place. Yeah. This actually has like silk cords.
Oh, nice.
That you
could tie everything down.
And you could tie everything down. And so, I bought it immediately. I mean, for the price I paid for it. Yeah. He literally just got it in.
Oh, nice.
And I think
best.
I was meant to find it. And
now
it's in my home. Sure. And I feel like it has such good energy because the people who owned it before, they put their energy into those objects, whether it's like intense or whether it's light and joyful. And they all have stories.
It's so much
it's really cool.
Of like a richer experience to own something like that than it is to just, order something off Amazon or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So
our house is full of antiques now. Yeah, we have obviously if you own a furniture company, it's like almost hard to buy other furniture unless it's like supporting other friends in the industry, which I'm totally keen on doing. But so it's either has to be basically Union Wood Co. or another furniture maker. in Vancouver, or it's an antique. I can't I can't sleep at night if I'm going to order something off of like Article or something like that.
Yeah. And just something that you said about like this nostalgia and um, the simpler life. You, like we said before, you now live full time on Bowen Island, which is, definitely more of a quieter but beautiful
Yeah, that was the
life
whole
out there.
purpose. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was the whole reason that we moved to Bowen, was to live a bit of a simpler life, and get out in nature a little bit, and just try to keep our lives simple and focus on the important things.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we were talking, a couple months ago, and you were saying, the pandemic really like slowed down life and you were sort of able to savor that a little bit more. And then out of that came a new idea, new brand called Goodland.
Yeah, exactly. It really was. Goodland's been something I'm really excited about, and I've got lots of feelings about it. But yeah, it was kind of like last year was the perfect timing. It kind of, everybody paused. Union would go slowed down for just like a beat, basically, but it was just the right amount of time to just, you know, rethink things. And I think a lot of people last year were rethinking, the framework of that they live their everyday life, right? And I gotta be here at this time, and have this many meetings a week. And if I'm not meeting this goal, then I'm not gonna meet the next goal, kind of thing. And I think that pause was really beneficial for me, and it was just a really good way to, it was like a reminder. Okay, why did you move to Bowen? You moved there to have slow days like this and be able to spend the morning chopping firewood and not be blasting out emails or on Zoom all day or something like that. That is why we moved there, to kind of live a bit more simple life. And then you just get caught up, of course, in running a business or everyday life, and it can, take your feet out from under you. But yeah, it was a really nice time last year, and I think what happened was when we moved to Bowen, we really wanted to live in nature, right? So we were like, okay, well, we've got these two. Well, I think we had one kid, and then my other daughter was coming or on the way, and we want to live a house. We want to have a yard. I want to chop firewood. I want to like have a garden. All these things. Where are we going to do this? And we kind of came upon Bowen, and I knew about it because I grew up on the North Shore, but we just thought, man, this could be a really cool spot. We ended up buying a lot there, and we were able to build our own house. So that was like obviously a dream come true for us, Kendra and myself, to design our own home. We worked with Pete from Human Studio, was like an awesome architect, and nailed our drawings. Like I don't even think we did one revision. He just like the first set was like, man, you nailed
Amazing.
it. You nailed our vision. So that was awesome. And then Goodland really came about because basically we were, I'm trying to explain it, if we were living in nature on Bowen, right? So we were surrounded by huge fir trees and, ravens and all kinds of critters and, everything over there. And, we're really affected by the weather over there too, which like we weren't when we lived in our little apartment on Canby. Like when a storm comes through on Bowen and you have a house, like you notice it, you really notice it. In the city, you don't notice it. We walk out of our apartment and there's a fake grass where my dog goes pee, and then we bring him back inside basically. And Goodland, really the products and the vibe that we're going with Goodland is really about that interface between like not only just living in nature, but also like how do we interact with nature. So, and I think that's what felt kind of missing to me on Bowen when we were there. We're like, okay, we're in nature, and we have a playground outside that the kids can play on, that's like in nature, but how are we actually living in harmony with nature, kind of thing, right?
How do you use that outdoor space?
Yeah, how do we like actually interact with Mother Nature more, kind of thing, right? So, yeah, we would go to the beaches and do all this kind of stuff in the summer, but it's like it felt like there'd be more opportunities to really engage with nature. And so that's where Goodland came from.
Yeah, I love the description on your site, objects for a slower, more considered life. And I'm curious, like, what does a more considered life mean to you?
I think, it's a similar thing that we talk about with Union Woodco. Is it's kind of like own less but appreciate it more, like invest in like the things that you are going to be really attached to, and that will like generate memories and moments for you, instead of you know investing in garbage or like a lot, like overconsumption kind of thing, right? So it's kind of the opposite of overconsumption. So we want to have just pick the things that are gonna really like fill your bucket up. You know what I mean? What makes you happy at the end of the day? Um, if you move half as fast, you notice twice as much. So if you can just take a breath and like interact with the world around you, I think it's a richer and more considered life.
Oh, I love that sentence you just said. If you move half as fast, you notice twice as much.
It's a key thing, and we don't stop to think about that stuff very often. So that's what Goodland is trying to give people, products so that they can have those opportunities.
Yeah. Can you talk about the first product that you guys are launching? Because I think it's so
the,
beautiful and cool.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, so it's a wood fired hot tub, and I'm like really passionate about outdoor bathing. So, and it's kind of a new thing. It's not something I grew up doing or anything like that. But, I did grow up like camping and being outdoors. We always lived in a city, but we would always go camping in the summer and engage with nature. I was just talking to my dad about this last night, and he's like, I remember you like chopping wood as a kid. That's like all you wanted to do when we went camping was chop wood. And so our hot tub that we're doing so it's totally wood fired. So essentially it's like a big double XL kind of bathtub, and it has inside the water, it has a wood stove in it. So you fill it up just like a bathtub. You chop the wood, start a fire, and the smoke comes up and out the chimney, so it's out of your face and everything. And to me, it's all about it's all about the ritual, basically, for lack of a better word, because it's like the anticipation of waiting, because it's not always available. Like it takes time to get it hot. It takes an hour and a half to get it hot, and it takes like participation. So you get a splinter when you're chopping the wood, or you're out there, you have to stir it to circulate the water, and like, oh, maybe you spill a little bit on your shoes or something like that. It's so different than a traditional hot tub experience where you're like getting in this molded fiberglass like thing with LED lights, and like it's almost the complete opposite of that, where it's a traditional hot tub's always available for you, and a wood fired hot tub, you actually have to participate in it to get that pleasure back from it, right? So you have to start the fire, and that's where we have one at our house, and it was just became this thing that kind of like brought our whole family together a little bit. Oh, Sunday, it's like pouring rain in Vancouver in November. What do you have to look forward to, right? Well, it's hot tub day on Sunday or Wednesday nights or whenever it is. And so, my daughter would come out and help me. I would chop the wood. She would kind of help me stack it, and I'd teach her how to start the fire and get it going. And then we'd bring the tub up to temperature, and then everybody gets in. And when you're in there, when you're in there with like your family or friend or whatever, it's it's a very enjoyable experience. And then when you're in there by yourself, it's almost like a meditative experience. You're in there, and it's a sensory overload. It's got cedar lounges inside, so you can smell the cedar, like the water and the cedar are soaking together, so you get this like blast of aromatics as you're in there, and then you can hear the fire crackling behind you, and you can see the smoke kind of puffing out of the chimney, right? And it just makes this really elemental experience, and it's totally life changing. So if you've been in a hot tub, that's awesome. But if you've ever been in a hot tub that's heated by wood, it's a totally different experience, and it feels so authentic and so kind of that nostalgic
Yeah, I was just gonna
thing,
say.
right? It just feels so like primitive that you actually used fire to heat up the water and now you're bathing in it.
Yeah. And you kind of worked for the experience too,
Yeah, and I
You
think it's like that's one of our pillars, that the products are reciprocal. So you have to put in or you won't get back, right?
right.
And
Yeah, I mean, if you think of the modern hot tub as like you flip on a switch and
totally,
then you
yeah,
just
you get in there.
get in
And
but
then you have to maintain the chemicals. It's confusing. So you like call some pool guy who comes and does it once a month. And,
yeah,
you know, you get out, you smell like chlorine. Like this is all fresh water. Well, you can use salt water too. But
yeah,
yeah, it's a really different experience. But it's like we have to educate people on that a little bit. And obviously it's not something that anybody can use. So, you know, if you live on, you know, whatever, if you live in Kitts or East Van or something, you can't necessarily put one on your balcony or something like that. So you do need the space to be able to use it. And that kind of spawns some other products that we're working on that you will be able to use in the city. But all the products that we're going to be making going forward are all really based on small rituals. And the idea of those is to take you away from your everyday life. Like we're all just, you know, whether it's Slack or WhatsApp or, you know, some chat group you're in, like you're always getting, you know, a notification for something, right? So if you're actually participating in these, using these products, whether it's a hot tub or a bird feeder or an outdoor oven or whatever, then you can put that phone away and you're just in that moment. You know what I mean?
And you're slowing down that time that you were talking about, right?
Yeah, you're just taking it down a notch and focusing on things that are like literally important, you know?
That is so exciting.
Yeah.
You must be excited about this.
I'm really excited.
This chapter
we've made some huge like gains in it in the last few weeks even, and my confidence is great in it, and it's really fun. It's definitely, you know, it reminds me of when I first started Union Wood Co. Like I forgot, like, you know, Union Wood Co.'s been running and successful for years, and it's really fun, but I know it well, you know, whereas Goodland it's all like new and scary, and I have those feelings that are like, oh, what if I fail? Or like, what if I embarrass myself? Or what if we don't sell any? You know what I mean? Like, and I just haven't had those feelings for a long time. And I forget how like exciting those are.
Yeah.
You know?
Like you said, when you came in here, you were like, I'm a little bit uncomfortable. I haven't done this before,
but that's how you grow, right? Is you get out of your comfort zone. And I think that that's something that I really like, I do appreciate that is, and I think that's like, I don't know if it's like a adrenaline thing or what, but it's like, I love that feeling of like being kind of scared that something's going to fail or not go well or whatever.
Yeah, no, that discomfort, I agree with you. It makes you grow. And I think even from a brain science perspective, when you're in discomfort and you're learning, you're actually creating neurons in your brain, like new pathways. Sure there's some
science to that for sure.
So yeah, well, congratulations, and hopefully we get to work on a little something together.
I would love to do that
with the sound journeys. And
so I think that, and that's what I first reached out about was the sound therapy, sound journey is that's what my whole focus on the tub's like, all these senses. So you're in the warm water. You've got, you know, you're watching the smoke. You can smell the freshly cut firewood and the cedar. And like, what sound would accompany that so well, you know?
Yeah.
To make it a really immersive experience.
Oh, sound is so fun for like thinking about an experience and what kind of music or sound you'd bring together. I just put together a playlist. I was on a podcast called A Little More Good, and they asked me to put together a playlist, and I ended up putting together a playlist for the fall, but there's a genre of music called chill hop or jazz hop that I really, really like.
Oh, nice.
And so putting that together was fun and creative because it was a fall list. So like, what kind of song do you think? What does that mean? What does it sound like to me?
Totally.
You know, and so that was really fun.
Yeah, that would be a challenge for sure.
Yeah.
But a good one, definitely.
Yeah, it was great. So I'm excited. When does it hit the market?
We are launching like pre-sales. I guess I'll say I'm estimating November 1st.
Okay.
So it's getting really close.
Yep.
But yeah, we've got a lot of interest so far, and there's just a lot of little boxes to check. Like, you know, I got to finish setting up the bank account and like kind of admin stuff like that. And, but I've got a really great team. Like, I'm so excited about this team that I've put together of, they don't work for Goodland, like they're subcontractors, you know, now, or some people work for Union Woodco and are doing Goodland stuff. But I don't know, I'm really thriving off that. Like, I've got some awesome people that are helping with the marketing and the email strategy and the product design. Like, the product design's amazing. We're really making this like kind of unboxing experience for people, which I think is going to be really cool. Like, it's a fun chance to do things that we've never tried with Union Woodco or never been able to try or whatever. It's a really fun experience. So
yeah, well, that's exciting.
Yeah, and I'm trying to keep my expectations like a little bit on the low side, you know, and just, it is supposed to be, you know, I'm doing it for enjoyment, basically, right? And because I enjoy these products and I want to share them with other people, that is like the root of it, is enjoyment and sharing that, you know, encouraging people to slow down and take that pause and giving them some way to do it.
Yeah. And honestly, sometimes that's the best way. It's like when you're super, super passionate about whatever it is. You can hear it in your voice. Like, I can even see it in your nobody can see your face right now, but it's lit up.
I'm
Let
excited.
me tell you.
And it gets more real every day for sure too.
Yeah.
There's just, you know, we're making a lot of steps forward, and it's going to be really fun, and there's so much opportunity there.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, there's not many people that are like, there's lots of companies making outdoor furniture, but as far as, you know, outdoor living products, which is kind of the category, like there's not a lot out there. So
yeah. And again, it goes back to a word that you used when you were describing making furniture at Union Woodco, is like immersion, right? Being immersed in
because if you
product.
can be fully immersed in that experience, it means you're not worrying about all the other things that are happening, which is, that's the idea.
Considered living.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I just have a couple more questions.
For sure.
2 more. Your wife, Kendra, I've heard some lovely things about her. I actually had a Friendsgiving at Caroline Boquist's house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
From Walrus. And
she knows Kendra. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was
Caroline's
saying, I'm interviewing Craig on Tuesday, and she said, oh, you know, his wife is so lovely.
Yeah, she's sweet.
Yeah. And so my question is, what do you love most about her and the considered life that you're building together?
Oh man, what do I love most about her? That's gonna be a hard one. She's in my good books right now. That's for sure. She's you know, she's been so supportive of me. She's a lot of things. She's really a lot of things. This is gonna be a hard one. She's like, for me personally, she's been like super supportive of everything I do. She says, yeah, babe, you'll be great. Just go do it, you know, because you're awesome. Go do it. And she's like such an excellent mom too, which is, you know, a really hard thing. Not everybody is like good at that. And she works really hard at it. And I think she should be really proud of the mom that she is anyways. And so she does such a good job at like running our family. She's so amazing at all the things that I'm like not great at, or that I'll like gloss over, you know? So I think we make a really good team. She's what would be the best? I don't know. There's lots of great things about her. Yeah. She's an awesome partner. I couldn't ask for anyone better. And I wouldn't be able to do any of the things that I'm doing without her support. And, you know, she backs me on everything. So she's a really great partner, and lots of love to her. Yeah.
Yeah. And the last question is about you, and a question I ask everyone: with what you do, what is it that you want to leave behind in the world?
Oh, yeah. What do I want to leave behind in the world? You know, if, you know, whenever we leave this place, whenever that is, I think I would just, you know, like to be looked upon fondly by my friends and family, you know? So I think it's relationships, I think, is what I would stick to, is having, you know, good, deep relationships, and just knowing people. So not just that kind of like, oh, I know them on the cover, but like more of an in-depth way of knowing people. I think that's important to just, really get to know your friends and your family and, all the people that you surround yourself with, and make a connection with them and hopefully a lasting memory.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. 100%.
I think that's what it is. I think that's what, you can make 1 million hot tubs or 1,000 podcasts or whatever. But, at the end, did you have people that cared about you? And, did you care about those people and, give them what they need, from day to day? So it's hard to wake up every day and think about that. I mean, admittedly, I don't, but I should, and I would like to. And, it's an important thing to consider.
Well, I think that's a lovely thing to leave behind in the world. And, it's been really nice getting to know you.
Yeah, it was so nice chatting with you, May. It was awesome.
Yeah, that was really great. And
thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm delighted that you were able to come into the studio, and I look forward to many more conversations.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm totally honored and grateful. Thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to hear more of what you're up to.
Thank you.
All right.
If you enjoyed that last conversation, be sure to check out more episodes of The Craft on Spotify and guest photo galleries on the website at wearethecraft.com. Thanks again for listening.